I was literally halfway through my second glass of Pinot Grigio, wearing my oversized college sweatpants and a messy bun when the doorbell rang. And not just a normal ring. It was that aggressive, rapid-fire asterisk ding-ding-ding that screams, "My emergency is now your emergency." I glanced at my Apple Watch. 10:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. I muted the true crime documentary I was watching, sighed, and padded to the door in my fuzzy slippers. When I opened it, the porch light flickered on to reveal my 26-year-old sister, Mia, standing there with two massive U-Haul boxes at her feet. Next to her was her fiancé, Tyler, looking like he'd just stepped out of a Ralph Lauren catalog, holding a leather duffel bag. Behind them, their Tesla was double-parked in my driveway with the trunk popped open. "Hey, Chloe," Mia said, not even smiling. "We're moving in." I blinked, my brain trying to process the sheer audacity of the sentence. "Excuse me." Tyler stepped forward, giving me that tight, polite smile he always used when he was about to say something completely unhinged. "Hey, Chloe, so our lease situation got super messy. The landlord sold the building and we got a 30-day notice. We're exhausted, so we figured we'd just crash here tonight and figure out the rest tomorrow." I looked at Mia. "You figured you'd just crash here, in my house?" "The house I just closed on 3 months ago." Mia rolled her eyes, shifting her weight. "Don't be dramatic, it's just temporary. Besides, you have that huge guest room you're not even using. It's just sitting there collecting dust." I stood there in the doorway, the cool night air hitting my face. I looked at my little sister, the same sister I had helped pay for when she dropped out of her first 2 colleges, the same sister whose car I had co-signed for. I waited for her to say, "Please, I'm so sorry, we have nowhere else to go." I waited for a single ounce of gratitude. Instead, she just picked up one of the boxes. "Can you grab the other one? Tyler's back is acting up." That right there, that was the moment. The exact second the dynamic shifted. But I was tired, and honestly, a tiny part of me still saw the 10-year-old girl who used to cry when she scraped her knee. So I stepped aside. "Fine," I said. "Just for a few days." Mia smiled, this smug, victorious little smirk. "Thanks, Chloe, you're the best." They rolled those boxes over my threshold, across the vintage rug I'd spent months hunting for on Etsy, and straight into the hallway. I barely got the door closed before Mia reached into her designer tote and pulled out a neatly printed, spiral-bound document. "I made a little house harmony guide," she said, handing it to me. "Just so we're all on the same page about expectations. You know, to keep the vibe peaceful." Looked down at the cover, House Harmony Guidelines. I flipped it open. Rule 1. Quiet hours start at 9:00 p.m. No loud TV or music. ***. Rule 2. No cooking strong-smelling foods, garlic, fish, etc. in the shared kitchen. ***. Rule 3. Guests must be approved 24 hours in advance via the group chat. I stared at the paper. I actually laughed out loud. "Mia, this is my house. I'm 30 years old." "I don't need a quiet hours rule." She didn't laugh. She just tapped the page with a perfectly manicured nail. "It's for all of us, Chloe. Structure helps everyone. Tyler works early and I need my beauty sleep." I looked past her into the kitchen. On the counter sat the coffee maker I'd bought with my very first bonus check. I looked back at the spiral-bound book. "Okay," I said, my voice completely flat. "I'll read it." That first night, I gave them the guest room. Fresh sheets, clean towels. I even helped Tyler carry a ridiculously heavy box up the stairs. When Mia went to the bathroom, Tyler looked at me and said, "Thanks, Chloe. We really appreciate this. We're just going through a rough patch." I wanted to ask him what kind of rough patch ends with his fiancé handing me a rule book in my own living room. But he looked genuinely stressed, so I just said, "Get some sleep." The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to make my coffee. My favorite ceramic mug, the one that says "but first, coffee asterisk," was gone. I opened the cabinets. It was on the top shelf, pushed all the way to the back. By noon, the thermostat had been changed from a comfortable 68 degrees to 74. By dinner, I tried to connect to the Wi-Fi to finish up some work emails, and the password didn't work. I walked into the living room. "Hey, did the Wi-Fi password change?" Mia was on the couch, scrolling through TikTok. "Oh, yeah." Tyler reset it. The old one was too hard to remember. The new one is on the fridge. I walked to the fridge. Taped right over a photo of me and my late grandfather was a printed piece of paper with the new Wi-Fi password. Right above it was the asterisk House Harmony Guidelines asterisk. On day 3, I came home from my job as a marketing director to find my vintage velvet armchair, the one I'd restored myself over a long weekend, moved into the garage. Mia was in the living room, measuring the space where it used to sit. "What's going on?" I asked, dropping my keys in the bowl. She turned, smiling brightly. "Oh, hey, Tyler and I were just rearranging. That chair was kind of clashing with the aesthetic we're going for. It's in the garage now. We're thinking of getting a sleek, modern sectional for that corner." I stared at her. "You moved my chair to the garage because it clashes." "We're not throwing it away," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Just storing it." "Don't be so possessive, Chloe. It's just a chair." Asterisk, just a chair. The chair I had spent 40 hours sanding and reupholstering. That night after they went to bed, I sat in my own kitchen, drinking tea out of a random mug because I couldn't find mine, and I heard Mia's voice drifting down the hall. "We can't keep pretending this is temporary," she was saying to Tyler. "I know," Tyler replied. "But she's so stubborn. How do we get her to sign the papers?" My blood ran cold. I froze, my hand tightening around my mug. "We just need her to add us to the deed," Mia continued. "Once we're on the deed, we can refinance, pull the equity out, and pay off my student loans and your car note. She has all this house equity just sitting there doing nothing. It's literally wasting money." "She's not going to just sign over half her house, Mia." "Well, if we pressure her," Mia said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "She's so stressed at work lately. We just tell her it's for the family. We tell her it's the only way we can afford to get married. She'll cave. She always caves." I stood there in the dark hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs. They weren't just crashing here. They were plotting to steal my equity. They were planning to manipulate me into co-signing a refinance so they could pay off their asterisk debts with my asterisk house. I didn't yell. I didn't storm in there and scream. I just quietly walked back to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed. I was 30 years old. I had spent the last 8 years grinding, working 60-hour weeks, eating cheap ramen, and skipping vacations to save for a down payment. I had bought this house to have a sanctuary, a place that was mine asterisk, and my own sister was sitting in my guest room, plotting to steal it from me. The next morning, I didn't make them breakfast. I didn't ask about their sleep. I just made my coffee, grabbed my laptop, and went to work. But on my lunch break, I didn't go to the cafe like I usually did. I drove straight to the office of Sarah Jenkins, a sharp, ruthless real estate attorney I'd used when I bought the house. I sat in her office, my hands shaking slightly as I told her everything. The U-Haul boxes, the house harmony guide, the chair in the garage, and the conversation I'd overheard. Sarah didn't look surprised. She just steepled her fingers and looked at me. "Chloe," she said, her voice calm and steady. "You own the house outright, right? It's in your name only." "Yes," I said. "I have a 15-year mortgage, but the deed is just mine." "Good," Sarah said. "Because legally they are guests, uninvited guests who have overstayed their welcome. But if you want to make sure they can never touch your equity, we need to document everything. Every text, every receipt, every time they disrespect your property. We're going to build a paper trail so thick they won't even be able to argue with you." The next 2 weeks, I played the perfect, agreeable sister. When Mia asked me to cook dinner, I did. When Tyler asked me to wait for the cable guy, I did. I smiled. I nodded. I acted completely oblivious. And because I was so agreeable, they got sloppy. Mia stopped lowering her voice on her phone calls. Tyler stopped asking before he used my stuff. Boxes kept arriving. Paint samples appeared on my dining table. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and found a contractor's estimate for open-concept living room renovation sitting on the counter. I took a picture of it with my phone. I saved it to a hidden folder on my iCloud. Every text Mia sent me complaining about the house, I screenshotted. Every time Tyler parked in my driveway and blocked my car, I took a photo. I didn't say a word. I just collected the receipts. The breaking point came in mid-July. Mia decided, without asking me, to host an engagement housewarming party at my house. She invited our parents, her friends, Tyler's friends, basically the whole extended family. I found out about it when I came home on a Thursday and found a catering company delivering trays of food to my kitchen. "Mia," I called out, walking into the living room. "What is all this?" She popped her head out of the pantry. "Oh, hey, the party is on Saturday." "I told you last week, remember? You told me you were thinking about having a few people over," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You didn't say you were hiring a caterer and inviting 50 people. She rolled her eyes. "Chloe, relax, it's my engagement party. It's a big deal. Besides, it's an asterisk our asterisk house. We want it to look nice. Asterisk our house." I took a deep breath. "Okay," I said. "Have your party," she beamed. "Great, I'm so glad you're finally being supportive." Saturday arrived, hot and humid. By 2:00 p.m., my house was packed. Music was blasting. People were spilling drinks on my vintage rug. Tyler's friends were lounging on my sofa, their feet up on the coffee table. I stayed in the background, watching. I watched Mia play the perfect hostess, showing people around, pointing to the kitchen, talking about our future renovations. I watched my parents beam with pride, completely oblivious to the fact that their younger daughter was actively plotting to steal from their older daughter. At 4:00 p.m., Mia tapped a spoon against a wine glass. The room went quiet. "Hi, everyone," she chirped, her face flushed with wine and excitement. "Thank you all so much for coming. Tyler and I are just so thrilled to celebrate our engagement, and we're even more thrilled to celebrate our new home." She gestured around the room. "We know it's technically Chloe's name on the deed right now, but as a family, we're all in this together. In fact, we're going to be making some big changes soon. We're going to refinance, pull out some equity to pay for our dream wedding, and really make this place ours. So here's to our future." The room erupted in polite applause. My mom was smiling. My dad was nodding. I didn't clap. I just stood there, holding my glass of wine, and waited. When the applause died down, I cleared my throat. It wasn't loud, but in the sudden quiet, it echoed like a gunshot. Everyone turned to look at me. "Actually, Mia," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room, "there's not going to be a refinance, and there's not going to be any renovations." Mia's smile faltered. "Chloe, what are you doing? Don't be silly." I walked to the center of the room. I wasn't wearing my sweatpants this time. I was wearing a sharp, tailored blazer and heels. I felt like the CEO I was at work. "I'm not being silly," I said. "I'm being clear. This is my house. I bought it. I pay the mortgage. I pay the taxes. And I pay the insurance. It is not our asterisk house. It is asterisk my asterisk house." Room went dead silent. You could hear the ice melting in someone's glass. Tyler stepped forward, his face red. "Chloe, come on, don't do this in front of everyone. We can talk about this later." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, looking directly at him. "And as for you, Tyler, your car is blocking my driveway. You need to move it. Now." Mia's face twisted in anger. "You're being so selfish. We're family. Family helps each other." "Family doesn't move your vintage chair into the garage because it clashes with their aesthetic," I said, my voice rising just enough to command the room. "Family doesn't hand you a house harmony guide in your own home. And family definitely doesn't plot behind your back to refinance your house to pay off their student loans and car notes." Gasps rippled through the room. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Mia," she whispered. "Is that true?" Mia looked panicked. "Mom, it's not like that. She's exaggerating. She's just being dramatic because she's stressed at work." "I have the texts, Mia," I said, pulling out my phone. I opened my hidden folder and held it up. "I have the texts where you told Tyler that I was wasting my equity and that you needed to pressure me into signing the deed. I have the contractor estimates for the renovations you planned without asking me. I have the photos of my chair in the garage." I looked at my parents. "Mom, Dad, they've been living here for a month. They've treated me like a guest in my own home. They've disrespected my space, my property, and my boundaries, and they were planning to steal my financial future." My dad's face hardened. He looked at Mia. "Is this true?" Mia started to cry, but it wasn't the sad crying. It was the angry, entitled crying of someone who just realized they aren't going to get their way. "You're taking his side. You always take her side." "I'm taking the side of the truth," my dad said, his voice cold. I turned back to Mia and Tyler. "You have until Monday morning to get all of your boxes out of my house. If they're not gone by 9:00 a.m., I will have them put on the curb and I will call the police to have you trespassed. Do you understand me?" Tyler looked at me, his arrogance completely shattered. He looked at my dad, then at my mom, realizing he had no allies left. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, we understand." "Good," I said. "Now please get out of my house." They left. It took them 3 days to pack, but they left. And when they did, the house felt lighter. The air felt cleaner. I spent the next weekend doing something I hadn't done in a month. I went to the garage, pulled the tarp off my vintage velvet armchair, and carried it back into the living room. I put it right where it belonged, next to the window where the afternoon sun hits it perfectly. I sat in it with a glass of wine and just breathed. A few weeks later, my mom called me. She was crying. She told me she and my dad had sat Mia down and told her she was no longer allowed to ask them for money. They had cut off the enabling. It was hard for them, but they finally saw the truth. "I'm so sorry, Chloe," my mom said. "We should have seen it sooner. We're so proud of you for standing up for yourself." "I know, Mom," I said softly. "It's okay, we're all learning." I didn't hate my sister, I still loved her, but I loved myself more. And I finally understood that setting boundaries isn't about being mean. It's about protecting your peace. It's about teaching people how to treat you. Sometimes the people who love you the most are the ones who take advantage of you the most because they know you'll let them, but you don't have to let them. You can say no. You can stand your ground. You can protect your sanctuary. And honestly, the view from my living room window has never looked better. So if you're listening to this and you're letting someone walk all over you just because they're family or because you're afraid of making waves, stop. Take a deep breath. Look at your own space, your own life, your own peace, and ask yourself, am I living in my own life or am I just a guest in someone else? Because you deserve to be the main character in your own story. You deserve to sit in your own chair, in your own house, drinking your own wine without asking for permission. Thanks for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. What's the hardest boundary you've ever had to set with a family member? I'd love to hear it. And if you liked this, hit that subscribe button. I've got a lot more stories to tell. Take care of yourselves out there.